What's going on, guys? Welcome to another video. Today we're going to be taking a look at the Tyranny of Dragons. Now, the Tyranny of the Dragons is a combination of two published books, and that is the Hoard of the Dragon Queen and the Rise of Tiamat. Both these books basically get like a bad rap, and I don't rate these particularly high either on my best D&D adventures list. And there's a lot of different things that I would recommend changing in this adventure, and that's what we're going to take a look at. So let's talk about the first and most important thing. How do you go about defeating a cult? Because at the end of the day, that is what this is about. One thing that you should be aware of is that a cult is going to have its goals. In this case, the goals of this cult is to raise Tiamat and bring her into the Sword Coast. That's something that we want to stop. In order to stop the cult from achieving their goals, we're going to need our players to defeat the main cult members of this organization, and there just so happens to be 5. So the first chapter of this adventure, I think, presents the cult in the worst way possible. Basically, the cult are attacking this town to get treasure for Tiamat. This sucks. This is not cult activity. This is military activity. This isn't a cult. This is a warband. This is a legion. So my first suggestion is scrap chapter 1. Just get rid of it. Don't use it. Because what you're doing is you're showing your players, oh yeah, this is a cult, but they're really actually a military force. Why? Because they're able to carry out raids and attacks on a town. A cult doesn't work like that. A cult is going to sneak, and they're going to plan and scheme, and that's how they're going to operate. So what I suggest instead is to have cult-like activity in this town. So instead of just having your players turn up at this town and there's a full-blown attack happening, what a coincidence, have your players turn up at this town and, like in the Cult of the Reptile God, have there be these cultists operating there. Maybe your players go to sleep in this nice quiet tavern thinking, oh, this is a lovely place to, start planning some adventures in. And they wake up to find a masked figure rummaging through their stuff. That same night, or the next night, maybe there's a murder and loads of cult iconography dotted around the walls. Now this becomes really interesting, and it becomes very clear, oh, there's a cult operating here. So that kind of thing, those kinds of features, they make an adventure like this really interesting from the beginning. It captures the player's attention. So after your players have defeated the cult, or they found out that there's a cult to begin with, we go on to the raiders' camp. Basically, they begin following the leads to try and find where these cultists are located. And the cultists are located in what looks, on this map, to be a military base. Maybe they turn up at this camp, they follow the trail, they follow the leads that they have uncovered within Greenest. They turn up and they find that there's actually like a group of travelling circus performers. In reality, every circus performer, every travelling merchant, every vagrant that is located in this camp is a cultist, but they are just disguised as normal, regular individuals, because that is what a cult does. They lie and they deceive and they trick. The only thing in this entire camp that is going to show that this is a camp full of cultists is this section right here. It's very difficult to see, but it's actually a cave in the mountains that takes the players to this, the Dragon Hatchery. This is where the cult activity is taking place. Anyone kidnapped by the cult, anyone sacrificed by the cult, anyone kept prisoner by the cult is going to be kept here. This is where the cult meet up and do their nefarious deeds. Under the disguise of, we're just a bunch of travelling traders and merchants. Now, if the players discover this location, sure, everybody in this camp can turn on them at once and reveal that they're a cultist, and it can be this huge, big all-out battle, because it should feel like a big all-out battle. But until that point, it's just an ordinary camp. There's nothing to worry about. Chapter 4, On the Road, is a very weird one for me. These are all the NPCs that the DM is expected to run. This is ridiculous. This is insane. This is stupid. There are so many random and pointless NPCs here that it just becomes almost impossible to care and to roleplay all of these properly. So my suggestion as a DM is I'm giving you guys permission to pick and choose the best NPCs in here and to cut the rest. One of these NPCs, anyone, pick them at random. make that person a cultist. The more random that cultist is, the better, because anyone who's read this adventure is gonna think they know who the cultists are, and they're not. So I want you to pick a cultist completely at random, and that person is the cultist, and they are giving information to the cult about where the caravan is, about the defenses of the caravan, and the players can see pseudo-dragons dropping off notes in the middle of the night. They find a cultist mask and robe somewhere within in the facilities. Of the, I don't know, maybe 6 NPCs, 4 NPCs that you choose, one of them ends up dying on the road, and the players have to try and work out who the cultist is. Whatever happens, do not give your players enough information to actually find out who the cultist is. The reason being is because we are going to be travelling to the Carnath Roadhouse. And I think the Roadhouse is this perfect place for the cultist, whoever they are, to make their move. Their move being to steal the dragon eggs for the cultists. In the Carnath Roadhouse, there's a few other cultists waiting to ambush the players. They take these dragon eggs, they steal them from under the player's nose, and they teleport away. They get the eggs out of there. Even if your players manage to catch the cultist and kill the cultist, the eggs are gone. Now, I'll be honest with you guys, the next 3 chapters of this book are 3 very large, very intricate locations. Starting with this castle in the middle of this swamp. They are very difficult encounters to run. Like, running a castle for a new DM with so many combat encounters and NPCs and all that kind of thing, it can be really tough. It's a lot. Even though it may seem really interesting at first, to run a castle encounter and the players are trying to raid this castle, it just becomes this massive slog. It's so difficult to map out like a castle like this and to structure it. It just becomes, in my opinion, not really worth it. I think that it's really important that the cult get away with these dragon eggs, and that the players kind of are in the situation where they've lost. They attempted to foil the dragon cult's plan, and they failed. The dragon cult made a fool out of them, and that gives your players motivation. So your players discover that there is a hunting lodge somewhere in the mountains very far away, and that one of the cult leaders lives there. That's their next clue to piece together. And maybe they can go there, maybe they don't even find the eggs here. But maybe they go there and they're able to take out one of the cult leaders. And this cultist is going to have information for the players to help them continue. So I recommend cutting out the castle on the marsh. I recommend cutting that out entirely. I've played through that one. I've read through that one. I've looked at it. I don't think that the enjoyment of running through it matches the enjoyment of going to this cultist's lodge and hunting down this cultist. Like, you can have like a ball, like a get-together, like a celebration. I like the idea of a masquerade, where the players can slip in, find out information about who in the party is this cultist, and then track them down and kill them. If you've played Dishonored, the first game, you know that there's that mission where you need to try and find out which of these 3 women who are dressed in different colours is your target, and then kill the right person. That kind of thing, but in this hunting lodge, works really well. And I highly recommend doing something like that. That one of these people in this masquerade ball, in this hunting lodge, using this same map, is this cultist. That is a very memorable and fun adventure for your players. And especially after they've just had this defeat of losing the dragon eggs, now being able to get some revenge and take out one of the 5 main cultists running this operation, and find information about who the other cultists are, because this is one of the cult leaders. So they're going to know the identities of some of the other cultists, or at least clues to the identities of some of the other cultists. You can drop all those sort of hints in there. We're going to go to chapter 9. This is where, we're now into the Rise of Tiamat, by the way. This is where the Council of Waterdeep comes in, and this is where basically now that it's undeniable, the Cult of the Dragon are operating. The players have killed one of the cult leaders, hopefully in the hunting lodge, but it could be in any of one of these 3 locations that I've just talked about. The players have killed one of the cult leaders, and they may or may not have recovered some dragon eggs, but it is now undeniable that there's cult activity within the Sword Coast. So now the officials get involved, now the allies, now the powerful people of this world get involved, and there's a lot of politics that goes on. Basically, there are a bunch of different council meetings. There are 4 sessions of very intense high RP that happen. and your players are involved in it, and in these 4 sections, in these 4 meetings, your players are basically given some missions to do to help defeat the cult. I think this is super cool, but I also don't know how essential it is to have your players be at these meetings, because from a practical point of view, as the DM, you are running all of these NPCs, are basically having a conversation with yourself before turning to the players and asking their opinion on certain things. So the rest of this book is basically dedicated to thwarting the cult's activity. This is the point where I think that the cult of the dragon can start being a bit more like in your face and actually start like doing raids on towns and cities, okay? Not before. Before, they're not ready. They're still a cult hiding in the shadows. Now, chapters 11 and 12, for me, sum up what I think is needed from the Rise of Tiamat adventure. And that is, your players have slain one of the 5 main members of this cult. Now what you need to do, now what the players need to do, is follow those clues. Find out information on the remaining 4 cult members, track them down, and kill them before Tiamat can be risen. The good thing is this book gives you a bunch of really cool situations. It tells you where each of these cult members are, tells you kind of what they're doing and what they're working on, the locations that they're in. It also gives you like missions on like recruiting allies, so that if everything does go awfully wrong and everything goes terribly, then you have allies there to help you. Like, you can skip some of those and just focus on hunting down the cultists. There's a whole sections where the cults like strike back and start sending assassins after the players because the players have killed some of the cult leaders. So now they need to take out the players, of course. And this is a really, really cool like situation where, okay, the cult are now getting a bit more like in your face. As I said, they're getting a bit more angsty because they're getting ready to finish their main goals. It all kind of culminates in this section, basically chapter 17, where, with any luck, only one cult leader remains. And that is this dude right here, Severin. And he is now ready. He's got everything he needs. He's ready at this point to raise Tiamat. And basically now it is a race against time. The players have been trying to kill out. They've been hunting down and killing the cult leaders. Now they need to kill the final cult leader, the big bad of this campaign. Either way, what we have is this whole thing taking place in the Well of Dragons. This giant setting. I mean, each of these tiny little squares is 20 feet. So this is several hundred feet by several hundred feet. It is huge. What I would do is I would have a timer for this section. I would put a timer on and go, you guys have got an hour and a half of gameplay until Tiamat rises. Like, real life, you've got an hour and a half to work your way through the Well of Souls section and to stop Severin. Otherwise, this is finishing and Tiamat is going to rise. That puts a real life... I tell you what, everyone in your group will not want to stop for a break. Nobody's going to leave the table to go to the toilet because everyone's going to be in real life sitting in their seats panicking because they don't want Tiamat to rise. That is an incredible feeling. So use a timer wisely in this encounter. This is a really fun situation to happen, and I think it's a really great culmination. Like, it's a great final fight. If Tiamat rises, it's awesome. If Tiamat is defeated before she rises, if Severin is defeated and the players succeed, that is awesome too. So I think this entire section is like fantastic. What I don't like about the Rise of Tiamat book in general, is that it basically is structured out like before, like a war. Like, it's a war. With the Rise of Tiamat book, is that I would cut out all of the sections where your players are recruiting allies. Like, you don't really need them to recruit that. It's cool. I think it's a nice little like thing that they could do, but they don't need to. They're hunting a cult, right? And I think that should be the focus of this. It shouldn't feel like they're fighting in a war. The final wearer in purple, Severin, he should be the focus of your players and not your players and their armies. That's not really the stage we're at when hunting a cult, in my opinion. Well, thank you guys for watching. I really appreciate it. I think, just to summarize everything I've kind of said, is that the biggest problem with the Tyranny of Dragons is it doesn't feel like you're fighting a cult. It feels like you're fighting an army. If you're fighting an army, then I would totally go with everything that's written in this book. But the Cult of the Dragon, then they're not a military force. They are a cult. It's in the name. And they don't act like one. the first time you meet them, they're raiding a town. You know, then right at the end, your political influence throughout the game dedicates which allies come to help you. Instead of just having like political influence influencing your allies and who's there to help you, just have nobody helping you. Send your players in there alone without an army at their back and have fun with it. It's you're hunting a cult. You're trying to stop them raising one of the coolest deities and bad guys in D&D history. So don't make it a giant all-out war. Thanks for watching, guys. I really hope you've enjoyed. Stay tuned for that Dungeon of the Mad Mage adventure. I'm going through a lot of different content for that. I'm looking at all of the old adventures and some of the more recent stuff as well to give you the best advice for running Undermountain. But it's going to be a long video. I think it's going to be a long couple of videos, actually. Thanks very much. I hope you have a great time. Stay safe.